Welcome back to the Features of the Night podcast. I am your host, VampireKitten, here with Johnny, 7 Minutes, and Devin, and Mickle Mackle.
Whoa.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back. So we decided
We're
this
here.
episode, we're going to take a slight break because we have been discussing some really fucked up and gross topics the last 2 episodes. And we wanted to, share our softer sides today. Right?
That sounds just as gross, though, honestly.
Yeah, actually, I take back everything I just said.
Yeah,
I thought that was a solid intro, friends.
Yeah.
100%. 100%, everybody. We nailed it. End of podcast. We'll see you next week.
It's the softest intro ever.
Okay, today we are discussing comfort horror, horror movies that make us feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
I love it.
Or that we like to watch when we've had a bad day.
A shitty day. A sad day. A mad day. A day.
A day.
We got there. Okay, now the show's over. I'm kidding. Anyway, so what is comfort? What is a comfort film and or comfort horror mean to you too? I guess is where we should start, because I feel like there's different definitions of what a comfort film is, but people who actually love horror movies have horror comfort films. And I feel like all of my comfort films most of them are horror movies, actually. So what does that mean to you, I guess, is my question. When you hear the word comfort horror.
I guess for me, it would just would be movies that are rooted in childhood, things I watched when I was a kid. The Monster Squad.
I think.
Or, huh?
What? Actually, here, let's discuss the definition of comfort horror. Right? What's a comfort? What comfort means to us, I guess, is a better direction. I'd say if a comfort horror film is something that's I sit down after a long day, had a crappy day, and I want to sit down, and it's like a feel good movie, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to necessarily be a feel good movie, but it makes me feel better, and it just it makes me feel like a warm, soft blanket, you know? It makes me feel sure, I had a shitty day, but I can lean and depend on this one thing. And this one thing is a horror movie, right? So, and I feel by definition, comfort foods and comfort films. I'm trying to look this up really quick. I'll cut this part out. So comfort films are films that evoke a sense of familiarity, warmth, emotional security, and are often watched repeatedly for their positive and comforting nature, acting as a guilty pleasure or a warm blanket. A lot of comfort films are nostalgic, right? So you mentioned Monster Squad.
And yeah, things from my childhood.
I have weird comfort films in that the ones from my childhood are The Secret of Nim, which can arguably be considered a horror film, a horror cartoon.
It's such a comedy.
Such a good movie.
I
good book.
Love The Secret of Nim.
I have a copy of it.
I have a fun story about this. So, we watched it, I think, in 2nd or 3rd grade in my class until one of the, I think, what is the female lead's name? What's her name? It's Mrs. Frisbee, right?
Frisbee?
Yes.
I think it's Frisbee.
Why was I thinking oh my god, I was thinking Mrs. Nesbit. That's fucking
oh my god.
That's fucking Toy Story.
It's Brisby with a B.
Brisby?
Mrs. Brisby.
I thought it was Frisbee. Whatever. Whatever. Mrs. Rat Bitch. Anyway.
Mrs. Rat Bitch.
We know who we're talking about. Anyway.
Yeah.
She gets captured and the other rat goes, damn. And the teacher turned it off and insisted we couldn't watch the rest.
Why?
Because it had cursed.
Shut up. No way.
Well, I did go to a private Christian
Oh, I
school.
guess I guess you're right. Oh my god.
Cursing makes Jesus cry, y'all. Just so you know.
Okay.
And thus
Did not know
secret
that. Learned
secret
something
of
today.
Nim
but
makes people cry.
I
Makes Jesus
also
cry.
I also have not Labyrinth was not necessarily a movie that I grew up with. Oh, I have two. I have two that I can another two childhood comfort films. One is The Dark Crystal, and I will also argue that that is a horror movie because it's terrifying. And Legend with Tim Curry as Darkness. That is also they're horror fantasy. They're like borderline, right? So those were like my
borderline.
I mean, they really are. They're scary. They're scary as hell.
They're horror.
Yeah. But those were like the films that I grew up with that I found comfort in. Just primarily as a little girl, and then when I got older, I feel like that changed, like that evolved over time. You know what I mean? Like I feel like my comfort horror taste changed. I still do love those movies, but they're not something that I lean on anymore. What do you two have like something that was necessarily like you watched as a kid but you don't really watch as a comfort film anymore?
It's funny that you say that because like Labyrinth was one that I remembered throughout my childhood into my adult life and couldn't pin it. Like I knew what Labyrinth was, and like if somebody was like, "Oh, have you seen Labyrinth?" Obviously I had, and I knew it. But there was that one scene where like she travels through that swamp, and like if you fall in, like the stench will stick with you forever.
Fog of eternal stench.
Yes. That for some reason in the hands. The scene where she falls down the pit is just a bunch of hands. Those were the two scenes from Labyrinth. Ew.
That's what they were called, I think.
That's what they're.
It's still
helping hands. Yeah. I've seen that movie way too much. That is a childhood movie for me.
Those are the two scenes that stuck with me, even when I couldn't remember that they were from Labyrinth.
Right.
And I wouldn't say it was something that gave me comfort, but it was something that at least I was nostalgic for because I'm like, I remember watching this movie, and I couldn't pin it until I had watched Labyrinth again within like the last 5-10 years.
Wow.
For me, one that I watched a lot as a kid that I don't necessarily watch anymore would be like The Never Ending Story.
Oh my god, that movie's sad as hell.
It also really is
makes very little sense.
Ooh,
there are some scary moments in that movie that are kind of like, kind of scared me as a kid.
What was the horse's name? It was Artax. Artax sinks into the mud of Allegory. There was an elevator contraption that was supposed to bring the horse down, and the kid got like caught under the horse.
What?
In part. He didn't drown or die, but his panic in the scene is very real.
Whoa.
Because he's being dragged into the mud too.
I didn't know that.
It was a scene malfunction. I don't think he ended up being injured, but it did end up being like, we're keeping the fucking cut because, oh shit, child trauma films well, apparently.
Oh my god. The more you know.
That's something we should probably talk about someday, the idea of like the horror of the making of a film. That's a whole different story though. But
yeah, we could really talk about like Kubrick and all that other stuff too. That could be a great episode.
I think what y'all are pointing out though is interesting too, the idea of nostalgia and horror, and the idea of these things that are uncanny, unsettling, but like are tied specifically to childhood. Because of my upbringing, I didn't get a lot of horror until later in life. But I did get snippets of it, and mostly through cartoons. So I have a very soft spot for animation. So when it comes to like animated horror, I fucking devour it. But I think, it's not film, but it is worth mentioning. I think of like Halloween episodes, my favorite cartoons. There was one episode like, I do not like the TV show Doug. I have so many issues with Doug as a cartoon.
Why?
But there's one episode.
No, I want to unpack this really quick. Why do we not like Doug?
I didn't say there's nothing inherently wrong with it. There were so many better cartoons, and then I don't know. I find him to be very whiny. He's basically the Caillou of the 90s.
Yeah, he is very whiny. He's a whiny little bitch. And it's funny because I used to watch that show all the time, and I felt like I related to Doug because I have had a very wild imagination. And growing up, I hated his sister Judy, but as an adult, Judy's a
Judy's
fucking
in,
vibe.
she's a
Judy's a
mood.
fucking vibe.
um, I don't know. I can appreciate it for what it is. But it doesn't resonate with me like it did when I was a kid for obvious reasons. People might come in and say like, "Well, you're an adult now." It's like, well, I still watch like Rocko's Modern Life and love that. I can appreciate early seasons of SpongeBob. I
Right.
still like animation. One of my favorite comfort shows, which isn't horror, but over the summer, I probably watched 13 to 14 times the same series, Bee and Puppy Cat, because it helps with my anxiety.
Right.
Um, I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's the art, the music, something I find very comforting. But going back to the idea of horror, a lot of like kids media, like we was it during the summer or maybe at the end of the summer we watched Are You Afraid of the Dark
Right.
together, and they don't hold up the greatest,
No.
but they're fun. They are fun. They're not terrible. It's an intro to horror for kids, a way to um, be scared but still have control. That was the big thing for like kids horror media, especially from the perspective of R.L. Stine. Like kids should be able to be scared but also not feel like they're losing control. That's the big like difference between horror for kids and horror for adults.
Right.
But I think back, like my experience, I do have a comfort film that I want to talk about in a bit, but my experience with horror is comforting is also tied to nostalgia like Johnny's.
Right. Um, so Johnny, what else did you have as a kid that you liked? You said Monster Squad. What was the other ones?
Yeah, for horror, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and
Oh,
it's
that's
I
interesting.
feel like it's cliche, but that is something that I just grew up watching as a kid because it was campy and it was fun, and it's probably the reason I'm afraid of clowns. But I love that movie. But yeah, I grew up watching that with my best friend, and anytime like they would come over to the house, we'd watch that movie like every weekend.
You.
um what else was there? Nightmare on Elm Street. And I only say this because like the first time I saw that movie, I was probably like 5 because my sisters were having a sleepover and their friends were all over and they were watching scary movies, and I snuck out and watched some of it.
My
I
first,
take it back. Oh, go ahead.
my first scary movie that I was not allowed. Well, I was told I was not allowed to watch, and watched it anyway. Was I Know What You Did Last Summer? That was my first.
The first one,
Yeah,
a good one.
yeah, yes. That was like I went over to my friend's house. They're like, "We're gonna watch a scary movie today," and our parents aren't gonna stop us. You know that whole situation, like a sleepover, like that
When you
type.
choose the most mild
Yeah,
horror.
and it's like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and that shit haunted me. And you
Dude,
know why it haunted me? It haunted me
Mandor
not.
Handhook Hardor.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
No, it
Just
haunted
like,
me
yeah.
because it haunted me because I was told not to watch that movie, and I fucking did it anyway, and that's
Well,
why it haunted me.
I mean, that's something kids do. Like, you're told not to do something, you're gonna do it.
Right?
Um,
That's such a fucking stupid movie to like be afraid. I'm not even afraid of it now. I've rewatched it like obviously since then multiple times, and I'm just like, why was I scared?
I have a better one because there is a movie that I was afraid of that was very, very stupid. There's actually two, one that I think is valid, but the other one's very stupid. The very stupid one is Ernest Scared Stupid because for whatever reason, that troll traumatized me. I woke up in the middle of the night crying, thinking like, and like hiding in the bathroom.
To be fair, I was scared of stupid shit when I was a kid too. I was terrified of the Crypt Keeper. Like terrified. Could not
me.
Listen to the intro music. Just absolutely scared shitless of the Crypt Keeper. And then I was scared of Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
With the face reveal,
But
yes.
I feel like that's a very valid fucking thing to be scared of.
That is the build up to it, though. She's
Yeah.
telling the story, like
No, it really gets you. Like that one, that was my really scared of part. Had to cover my eyes every single time.
But yeah, I don't know what it was about that troll and Ernest Scared Stupid.
So that's valid.
The other movie that is a more valid movie is The People Under the Stairs. That movie scared me so much as a kid.
I just remember two bits of horror media, and both of them weren't horror technically. That scared me shitless as a kid. One of them, this is a weird one, but The Tuxedo. I think that's with Jackie Chan.
What?
Okay, so the thing that fucked me up was, I don't know if you remember what the whole premise was. They were going to poison the water with this bacteria that takes all the moisture out of your body.
Oh yeah, that's kind of
And they
scary.
show in graphic detail this guy being desiccated cell by cell, and the camera even like looks into his eye as he dehydrates.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
I did not drink water for 2 days. Like I had soda or juice because I was like, I don't want to risk it. But then it was like, okay, this is fucking stupid because I'm worrying about a stupid movie that's fictional. There's no way that this is happening. But it fucked me up as a kid.
I have one more thing that fucked me up as a kid, and I will tell you. I'm omitting some things. Did you ever see the alien autopsy video?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm probably gonna overlay it over this part of the stream so people can understand. And it's fucking terrifying. There's no audio. It's just silence. And it's two guys like literally doing a autopsy on a fucking alien. And for some reason, that shit fucked me up so bad. I still don't like alien movies. Like I cannot, like I love Aliens, Alien 2, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, whatever. Love those. They're great. The Xenomorphs, it's little gray men. So like fucking Fourth Kind, all of those alien movies.
Have you seen the one that's on Hulu? It's the one that has the woman and she's like shunned by the town.
No One Will Save You.
Yes, that one.
Great title. Decent film. I was not too happy with the ending.
Did I see that? I don't know if I saw that one.
What's it about? On what you're saying about aliens, I don't think you'd watch this.
So a woman is in this town and she's shunned because as a child we learned that she accidentally killed her best friend. Her mother dies, so she's alone, but the whole town harbors resentment. And it's like many years later. But alien invasion takes over, and it's a pretty, I don't want to say silent movie, but there's dialogue.
Very little dialogue.
It's very sparse, and it's actually well done. I personally did not. The resolution.
Yeah, No One Will Save You. It's on Hulu.
Want to know the other thing that really fucked me up as a kid?
What?
It's not traditional horror media, but one could call it horror media. Left Behind for kids.
What?
Oh. You know the Left Behind series, right?
Yeah.
If dear listeners, if you don't know what Left Behind is a series, a speculative fiction of what the world is like after the rapture. And it's a fiction about like the world towards the second coming of Christ, or technically after the second coming of Christ. But they made a kids version. It's like the kids bot version of Left Behind. Let me put it that way. And it fucking terrified me. I had nightmares. And like, I remember I had a dream where like several of my siblings had accepted the mark of the beast.
What?
And I shit you not. This is what religious trauma looks like, y'all. Just so you know, if somebody says religious trauma, good example. I have well moved past it, obviously, but it fucked with me. A lot of Christian media about hell, heaven, the afterlife, the rapture is terrifying. And I want to emphasize, I'm not trying to mock religion here, but how it is presented to, I think it was like in second or third grade when I learned about the rapture. That is terrifying for a child.
Yeah, that's really scary.
And I remember like people getting mad that I was like Um, I woke up one night crying about the rapture because I was like in my head, well, what about our hamsters? What about our dog? If we're not here, what happens to them? Are they just going to starve to
No,
death
I
because
didn't.
there's nobody here? Yeah,
Nobody even
this
thinks
is
about that shit.
nobody does. And I'm just like the logistics. And some are like, well, they'll go to heaven too. And it's like there's nothing that says that.
First of all, dogs and cats and hamsters go to the Rainbow Bridge, which is way superior to any sort of human.
Yeah, Nordic mythology.
Yeah, let's go Rainbow Bridge.
They go to Valhalla.
Good for them. They have to put up with us and human shit. I can't imagine them going anywhere else. Two,
But
religious trauma sounds really scary. Like it sounds
It is.
fucking scary. Like I feel so bad for friends that I've had these conversations with where like that is literally what they're scared of. Like they do their very best to scare the shit out of you sometimes. And
I will
it's just like
say,
that's like the same thing with like Krampus and all of those like you know
And Oz.
yeah, no,
folkloric punishments.
folkloric punishments. It's the same energy.
Mhm.
Like isn't that crazy though? Like let's scare the shit out of all of our children and make sure they're not going to misbehave. Like what? That's trauma forever.
Yep. I will say that it does make religious horror films all that much more fun for me, like legitimately.
I mean,
Like
I can see
Saint
that.
Maud, if you haven't seen it, fucking classic.
That was a really
It was
good movie.
incredible.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh,
So
we'll have to watch it together.
I did look up this alien autopsy video. It was made in 1995.
Christ.
And yeah, it aired somewhere, and I watched the whole thing as a kid.
Aired somewhere.
It's literally it's like 21 minutes long. It's
I
a
know what you're
fucking
talking
long
about.
video, and like
Um,
they take the alien, like they pull this thing apart too. Like they really planned it out. They take the like lenses off of the alien with like tweezers, and like it's a serious fucking thing.
I'm gonna point out that we're supposed to be talking about comfort.
No. I know, but I mean, we are gonna
I'm
come.
not-
We are gonna come full circle. I
I
swear.
promise, y'all.
But like these are things that scared us as a kid. But then they're
Right.
on the flip side. Going back to what we were talking about, there are so many things as a kid that actually made me feel better, which is stupid because they're basically the fucking same thing.
Well, that's the thing. Like things that you find very uncomfortable as a child might actually be something that you find more comfortable as an adult, or something that you kind of acclimate to. I think, for example, like the other day, Johnny and I got home and I put on YouTube, and one of my favorite things to do is listen to like disturbing things from around the internet or disturbing mysteries that still haven't been solved. I will fall asleep to that shit and wake up to, and the dismembered body was found floating down the river 7 weeks later. And they found text messages that suggested that it was a friend who did it. But to this day, we don't know. And just like going on and on about somebody being like vivisected and killed. And it's not that I find that topic fun per se. Like I obviously feel bad for the people who like lose their lives in these situations. And it is indeed very tragic. But it's also very informative. And I've noticed something about true crime, mystery, and internet mystery videos. A lot of the people talk with a very soft voice.
It's a cadence that
And
makes
it's
you
so
relaxed.
pleasant.
Right.
So I'll be like, this person received threatening phone calls that would said, I'm gonna slit your throat, bitch, and I know where you live. And I'll wake up to that and be like, wow, that was a great nap.
Oh no.
It's very weirdly comforting for me though. But
I think I honestly feel like that's why a lot of people listen and watch true crime shit, because it is kind of, there is a really weird,
Yeah.
relaxing energy about it that I don't quite understand.
I was very, very depressed and anxious before I started getting medicated. And while I won't go into the details of that whole aspect of my life,
No need.
I will note that there was a point where I was watching Fascinating Horror on YouTube. That's the channel. It's very specific. It's about accidents that led to like safety regulations. So things like human crushes or like bridge collapses and how they led to legal ramifications and new legislations. It's very interesting. But I was watching it because I was like, things are rough right now, and I was watching and like, at least my life isn't this rough.
Right.
So there is also comfort too in the comparison. At least for me, that's something that I found comforting.
I feel like some people can connect with that. As I got older, since now we're kind of segueing a little out,
Mhm.
I realized that my comfort horrors movies had changed, right? Because like I was dealing with a lot of stuff in high school that was uncomfortable, and I was not a well-liked kid. I was lonely, and I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a lot of guy friends. I didn't, and even then, like I feel like I'm the kind of person who thinks that everyone is annoyed with her. Like literally, that is a feeling that I have almost all the time. And I'm trying really hard to like I always try really hard to be myself, but at the end of the day, I always feel like that I annoy the fuck out of these people all day long. You know what I mean? It's just something
Yeah.
that I've always had and always felt. So I've always felt like connected to certain things. As I got older, I realized that I loved ginger snaps because I
Okay.
felt like I connected with that film. I also
Best cookies.
what?
I said best cookies.
Best cookies. Best
No,
Honestly,
cookies.
ginger snaps are really good
They're
I
cookies.
do love ginger
delicious.
snaps, both film and cookies.
But I just felt like I connected with both of the girls, and I felt like I connected with like how people treated them at school, and like how they just were not well liked. And then as Ginger was like transforming, obviously spoiler alert if you're watching or listening to this podcast, because we're just going to talk about spoilers. Um she, she gets bit by the werewolf, and her sister tries to like resolve it, and like I have siblings, so it's like to me it sort of feels like it all falls into the place at the right times in my life, and I feel like that's kind of why I like ginger snaps. But going back to what you were saying as like the true crime stuff,
Mhm.
those 90s movies have a very specific feel about them that I don't think is replicated today. Like
I
it's like the craft also feels the same, and they all feel kind of the way the true crime podcasts and documentaries feel. They have that cadence about them that's very like mellow and chill, and the music is just right, and like the craft in itself is also a comfort film.
Well,
Like
I
if
don't want
you
to suggest that we don't have these kind of films today, but I very much agree with you because there's something about how these films characterize angst in
Mhm.
particular. I think of The Craft, teenage angst. I think of Jawbreaker, teenage angst. I think of 10 Things I Hate About You,
I mean fuck
teenage
even
angst.
yeah.
All of it seems to be captured in a very specific way that isn't really reflected. And I think part of it too, like just kind of considering those, I would
Yep.
argue that there's some connection to the grunge culture of the time too,
Yeah, it was
and
peak.
definitely have heavily tied to alt and alternative culture. And I mean, we still see that today, but there's such a difference. I feel like we've moved towards a culture of aiming for high polish in everything, and we when something is so polished it becomes overproduced. It's almost like you have washed away the item itself, and all you're looking at is a surface of polish. Does
Right.
that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel
Like, for
that.
example, you stain a piece of wood because you like the grain of the wood, but you want to protect it and give it a kind of color. This is like staining it and polishing it so much that you've lost the wood grain altogether.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's very true with the fact that we're seeing so many remakes, we're seeing things that are regurgitated, and we're seeing everything has to be picture perfect. I actually just saw something about animation the other day, specifically that for some reason, globally, the United States pushes so heavily towards 3D animation where other countries are like,
I hate it.
fuck it, we're going to do 2D. And other countries are starting to become high competitors in the film industry. Um,
Well,
especially in animation.
that's
And
amazing.
they don't always rely on 3D. I will say though, one that did well with 3D is Flow. We'll have to talk about that a different day though.
Yeah,
Ugh,
and that's not
anime
an American. Where was that? Latvia, right?
I think it was
Was it
Latvia.
Latvia?
Uh-huh.
they won so many
Yeah, they won best animated feature at the Oscars.
that's crazy.
That movie was so sad.
So another one that I really truly connect with, because like I'm pagan. I'm an eclectic witch, kitchen witch. And I'm not afraid to admit that these days because I feel like my life has changed significantly in the last 5 years. And so I feel like I connected really well with Practical Magic is like one of my favorite movies of all time. I will watch it when I'm sad. I will watch it when I'm angry. I will watch it when I'm set. I will watch it when I need to feel something. And I know a lot of people probably won't admit to the fact that Practical Magic it has horror aspects to it, right? The boyfriend gets killed, they try to resurrect him to get him to come back, so they didn't actually like murder him with belladonna, but goes wrong. He becomes a demon, and then he's a demon spirit, and they're fighting this demon spirit through the whole fucking movie. The charm of the movie is what I love so much. It just feels homey and welcoming, and it truly is a comfort film to me in so many ways. That it is a romance, it is a family drama, it has all of these elements that I feel like are really great. Plus we love Nicole Kidman and freaking oh my gosh, Miss Congeniality, what the fuck is her name?
Sandra Bullock.
Yes, we love them. How do we
Just-
not? We're
Just not
also
Sandra Bullock and Crash. I think we can omit that one.
yeah. They are making a second Practical Magic.
For a second,
The-
I expected you to say they're making a second Crash. I was like, why?
No, so I have to actually I have a fucking bone to pick with was it Warner Brothers? All right, I think it was Warner Brothers. So we were getting some Practical Magic news like last year, right? We've been waiting, I don't know how many years, like 30 years for this film, 25 something years for this fucking second film to come out, right? Practical Magic is a book series. And so everybody's like, oh, when are we going to get another one? When are we going to get another one? Are we getting another one? So Warner Brothers decided that they were going to be fucking cheeky and shitty. And I will call them out as such because that's dog shit what they did. They were like, Practical Magic news in a week. So we all waited. We waited a week. And they were like, Practical Magic is coming to streaming. We're just like, fuck you. Fuck you. And then 2 days later, they're like, Practical Magic 2 is coming. And we're just like, so you fucking did this shit. You trolled us. You played with our heartstrings. And then you announced it? Shut up, Warner Brothers. How dare you? How dare you? But yes, I am absolutely in love with Practical Magic. I think it is a fantastic, perfect example of a comfort horror film. And you two, have you evolved your comfort horror films like I have, or are you still sticking with the like Monster Squad and originals? Do you have like others that you like now?
I have a very specific one, and it's one that is very recent, and it is I Saw the TV Glow. I've definitely seen mixed responses to it. Some argue that it's just kind of too it pontificates too much. I personally think it does well. I really enjoyed it, and I actually saw the director's other film with Johnny. We watched We're All Going to the World's Fair. Both of these tackle the subject of gender dysphoria. And it's unlike anything I've seen. I Saw the TV Glow mixes elements of like campy Power Rangers style shows with Buffy style shows, with the horror of identity itself and the struggle to truly identify as oneself, which, as somebody who's non-binary, definitely resonates with me. It's something that, while I know myself, I have experienced gender dysphoria quite a bit in terms of the fact that socially I'm very male presenting, but I am non-binary. I use he, they pronouns. Either is fine by me, but I am very definitively not male. And I think a lot of people forget this about me. Like, it's weird to think that, like, even some of the people who are very close to me, I feel like forget about this. And while I'm not mad, it can sometimes lead to a sense of dysphoria. I Saw the TV Glow was one of the first films recently that I felt kind of saw me and acknowledged something that I've discussed with other people, but it's that kind of idea again that representation matters. But I felt seen in a good way, that like I obviously knew that there are other people out there with similar experiences. I have friends who have experienced similar things. But I don't know, something with that film really resonated with me. We watched it and it sat with me, and I think we watched it just a couple days after again, because I couldn't let it go. I needed to watch it again. Um, and I don't know, there's something very comforting. There's a spoiler alert. Um, one of the characters is possibly transgender identity, and um, I forget his name is Owen, um, but he might really be Isabel. There's a whole kind of layering between reality and the TV show that's inside the film, and it suggested that the TV show they watch is actually the reality, where she is Isabel, not Owen. Um, so it's something that's worth, not worth. It's something that I find very comforting, because I see in it Owen's resistance to acknowledging the reality, also questioning if it is reality altogether. But there's so many hints that Owen's life isn't actually real, and Owen is Isabel. Um, but having a film articulate it through the allegory, and I'll point out maybe this is why it comforts me so much, because it goes back to the film uses 90s tropes as a way to explore gender identity. So, as a queer, non binary person who was raised in the 90s, what better film to kind of hit home for me, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it really does. The 90s tropes and everything. Um
Well,
I mean, I get that. I get that in a way when it comes to like so I guess this goes also the connection I guess what I'm trying to articulate is the connection that you feel within like to the characters in these films,
mhm,
right? That's what stirs the emotional response overall. I was having a conversation recently with somebody who we had mentioned that we were growing up the weird kids that we connected with the monster in the horror films more than we connected with humans. And I'd say that's probably like along the same lines of kind of what you just
mhm.
explained. Like you connect with this character. And a lot of the monsters, they also have their very own dysphoria. I actually watched did you ever watch Queer of Fear?
I don't
No.
think so, but
It's
we've watched stuff that ties horror to queerness.
It's on Shudder, and it's a really great delve into essentially what you just talked about. But
Mhm,
I agree with some of it. I don't agree with all of it, but I can't really make that, assumption or judgment because like I feel like there's reaches there, but who am I
mhm,
to say I think you're reaching a little to somebody who connects with a format or a theme or a monster, right?
mhm.
Um I think it's a really good thing to look at. I think that you should watch it. I think basically everything that you just described was what that mini series was about. Um, really enjoyed that. So I'd say definitely look into it. But going back to like connecting, making an emotional connection where you feel seen, I feel like a lot of monster movies are that way. And
I
that's
want to point out.
why I'm
Oh, I'm
kind of
sorry. Go ahead.
mentioning it because like Queer of Fear covered that as well.
Mhm,
Um, I personally connected with the monsters like as a kid.
mhm,
Like I felt misunderstood and I felt lost and confused in who I was as a person. I think that's just an overall overarching thing for people who love horror is that I'm not trying to generalize it, but like I also felt that in my own way just through horror.
Well, as the ancient philosopher says, "I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare." Um, it's there's definitely an idea of
Why?
alienation. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Um, there's definitely a sense of alienation and monstrosity, and what you're saying, um, shocker, I'm gonna go back to literature. Think about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Right?
Um, Frankenstein's creation, who is not given a name through the text. Just a gentle reminder, y'all, the creation is not Frankenstein, although they're conflated quite a bit. But that's okay. I even saw a meme one time that after fleeing to the Arctic North he yells back at Walton and says, "Oh, by the way, if you call me Frankenstein, that's okay. I don't mind." But I digress. But if you haven't read Frankenstein, highly suggest. It's not a terribly long book, and it's incredible. It's a predecessor to what we know as science fiction today. It's gothic horror, and the creature, there's the very obvious like society's the monster, and that's the general conclusion to be drawn. But I think that flattens the issue too of the monster that's trying just to connect. This creature that has a sense of internal being that is shunned purely based on appearance. It learns very avidly from basically voyeurism, but basically learns several languages, philosophy, and science from just listening, and is cast out. And Mary Shelley asks us to consider, like, yeah, this is a walking corpse, but it's a walking corpse with feelings.
Right.
And that's not
Right.
like me making a joke. That's literally the premise. Like, how do we accept the monstrosity of the appearance? And in some ways, Mary Shelley is getting at also other issues of, scientific responsibility. But if you think about it too, the superficial qualities of a society that vilifies people for their otherness, their difference. The creature is always ostracized purely on his appearance, and he does nothing negative until he is completely shunned. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a very important thing. Um, he shows himself to be a reasonable creature, a sympathetic and empathetic being, and then he is cast out purely based on his appearance. Um,
And I think
I
we can all
think
agree that we connect with that, and it's also fucked up because
exactly.
I feel like that's such a big thing in our society, right? Like feeling alone and cast out, like you don't connect with other people because of your differentness, the things that make you truly unique, which is
Right.
crazy because human beings are all very unique in their own individual way. But I digress, I guess.
As another philosopher once said, I'm just Frankenstein's creation and life is a nightmare.
Oh my
Nobody
god.
said that.
I just
What
I just
philosopher
did.
was that?
I'm me. Anyway. Now
Uh
I think one thing that people forget, and I don't want to suggest every horror film is predicated on this, but horror does introduce the idea of empathy in very surprising ways. Like we watched, I know we've talked about it because we did for our stream, but the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Um, I feel like a lot of the imagery presents sympathetic characters, the questions of humanity, the questions of somnambulism as a kind of metaphor for lack of agency, and so on and so forth, or even Metropolis,
mhm.
the idea of corporate greed. Um, Horror introduces, in many ways, the idea of empathetic beings in the midst of monstrous conditions. I mean, think about, for example, one of my favorite films. It isn't really one of my comfort films, but Black Christmas, Bob Clark, 1974.
Right.
Um, and a lot of the sorority girls who are there are assholes. Margot Kidder's Barb, incredible character. She's drinking the whole time. She's smoking. She cracks open a beer at a police station. She's feeding children champagne while she is plastered. She is an awful person, but her death still resonates because we're at, as she's drunk, contemplating, the disappearance of her friends and the possibility that one of them is dead. She says, I know you all think that I'm to blame, that it's my fault. And in a fit of anger and depression, she becomes that much more vulnerable. Does
Right.
that excuse her other behaviors? Absolutely the fuck not. But it asks us to consider her humanity in a way that the film hasn't to up to this point. Um, I would argue that horror, at least good, really good horror, tackles the idea of empathy in complex ways.
Yeah. But it's crazy because people don't this goes back to people not recognizing horror as something serious. Horror is a I think this is just my honest opinion. I think horror tells a story in ways that people don't and can't often express a story. Um and that emotional response to horror in itself is such a big deal. And that's just the emotional response of being scared, right? That's not even the emotional response of like empathy. Horror expresses empathy in such amazing ways. And it's all different ways too. It's not just like, oh, you know, feel for this monster. It's feel for this monster who is in love with this human, and their love, it cannot ever truly be expressed, you know, to other humans because of, you know, what so and so. It's like forbidden. It's forbidden love. You know what I mean? It's
Lisa Frankenstein.
right. No, but I'm
Just
serious. Like
I agree with you. I'm not
well,
disagreeing.
I was thinking more Shape of Water, but okay. But you know what I mean? Like there are feelings and there are real emotions and things here that people don't often analyze because they just think, oh, it's spooky movie, you know, like, oh, it's scary movie, oh, it's monster movie. That's why I really enjoyed Queer Fear overall, like as a series, because it expressed and explained the emotions that people felt in each of the topics that they discussed.
Mhm.
People who say that though, like, oh, it's just a scary movie. Those are people that like just don't really watch horror movies.
Those are people
they don't understand.
those are people
comfort.
who love Michael Bay, okay?
Yes.
Sorry for the Michael Bay lovers.
My Transformer sound.
Throwing shade over here, VK.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine.
So, okay, I think one thing that is good to consider is everybody has a right to a difference in taste. There's no denying, though, that Michael Bay films are meant to pander to a certain aspect. They're
Look,
predicated. There are many arguments that is predicated on the male gaze.
I feel like if you watch a Michael Bay movie, I can just, like, there's no way that people aren't just masturbating to his whole films, like all of them. That's how I'm like, oh yeah, people are gonna really fucking love this movie because it's just spank material.
I did like the very first Transformers.
I am
movie.
glad
That's
you
it,
finished
really.
that sentence because I thought you were going to say I did and just leave it there.
No,
the
it
first
is though.
Transformers-
It's like
It is, though.
It's-
The first Transformers movie I saw in theaters,
Same.
and there were people practically creaming themselves when what's her face? Chelsea from Love is Blind.
Megan Fox.
Megan
Oh
Fox,
my God.
right. I get them
Shut
confused.
Oh yeah, because they just
Yeah.
look so similar.
And I'm the one throwing shade.
Chelsea, we love you. Like, I'm glad that you got your shit together. And that's not an insult. We think that you've really developed as a person, and that's awesome.
No, yeah, we do love you, Chelsea.
This podcast is getting canceled. Oh my God.
Tune in next year when we're allowed to podcast again. But when Megan Fox came on, I want to emphasize something important because this is the kind of dynamic. There's nothing wrong with portrayals of female sexuality. Women are allowed to have sex lives, healthy sex lives, and portrayals of sex on the screen. The problem is when they're framed purely for the purpose of men to gawk at.
Can I add to that really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Horror movies do that shit all the time. They fetishize women.
It's a trope.
It is a trope. But see, I think what's great about horror is they lean on it because it is a trope and it's fucking funny versus Transformers where they're literally fetishizing women because they're women.
I do want to talk about this a little more because I'm going to mention one of my comfort movies. It's Suspiria, Dario Argento's Suspiria from 1977. For those of you that don't know a lot about Dario Argento, some of his movies focus a lot on misogyny towards women. Suspiria is a comfort film for me, especially on like a stormy day, because it just
That's a good choice.
it just feels good when it's like pouring down rain outside and you're watching a movie that's kind of like an assault on your senses because of the sound. The soundtrack to that movie is phenomenal. Underrated.
It really is.
And the way that movie is just shot, the colors, the reds, the blues, the yellows, very primary colors. Cinematography is great. The unsettling feeling you get when it gets really quiet in the ballet school.
I think that's a good point that you just made about color. like I think color story in horror is really important for conveying
Mhm.
emotions as well. Because we'll get back to the Transformers, which you were gonna say about Megan Fox in a second. But I can't with your Transformer noise. Um
It's so bad.
it's so good.
I said
But
it's so bad. I appreciate that you like it.
it cracks me up every time you do it. So going into what kind of Johnny was mentioning about color stories is like that's why I like Neon Demon so much.
I was about to say Neon Demon.
Again, cinematography there too is fantastic. That whole scene where she's shooting the model and he's like painting her gold.
But like I feel like Neon
Loved it.
Demon is a really great example of a modern comfort horror film for me. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but the pacing and the color and there's just something really emotional about it that just I can kind of melt into my bed or couch and just feel something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that is a good newer comfort film for me. Like I'll put on Neon Demon if I've had a terrible day. I don't know why. It's just become that. But I
Los
think
Angeles too.
well
I
yeah.
think that's part of it for you.
Yeah, that's probably it. But the color in itself gives me a lot of like life. I don't know. There's something interesting about it.
There are two scenes that forever stand out visually to me. There's the one where they go to the party. It's Elle Fanning's character's first time at one of these major like fashion parties,
Mhm.
and they're doing shibari, and it's very disorienting because there's a lot of flashing red and black lights, and you see somebody kind of just floating in rope, but you can barely make out what exactly is going on. And I think it's such it leans so heavily into that aesthetic of art house.
Right.
And the other one is I don't know if it's a dream sequence or if she's actually doing a shoot and modeling. It's when she's in the triangle mirrors and she kisses herself in the mirror. Um, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where it's like the triangular hallway that's
Mhm.
completely reflective.
Mhm.
And it's usually used as like the imagery for Neon Demon. It's just so visually stunning.
It
I
just
think that
tickles your brain the right way.
right. It's kind of like ASMR, but less cringe.
Ugh.
If you like ASMR, that's great, but there's something a lot of people do not like those sounds. They get under people's skin very quickly. So for example, lip smacking and chewing are things that drive me up the fucking wall.
Oh, gross.
And I know people are
Yeah.
like, I love hearing people chew gum. I'm like,
Ugh.
That's
I'm
awful.
as one of my friends put it, it feels like I'm drowning.
Yeah. That's
Ugh.
I kind of yeah.
I can relate. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Um,
I'm gonna actually say something. One that I do think that did something interesting with color, and one that I know that we all mutually did not like that much. I give it props, Skinamarink, for the color and use of high ISO.
Yeah.
I
Um,
really
that
wanted to
very
like that
dark
movie.
blue.
I know, but this is me trying to give it credit for something, because I
And
do think that the color scheme and the use of the high ISO on the camera really did contribute to an atmosphere. I still don't like the film, but
and also this kind of ties back to childhood horror because it's like a childhood nightmare.
Actually, yeah.
Like, and you know, those kids, they're just like watching cartoons and it's pitch black, all the doors are gone. Like, it just seems like that's what it reminded me of. That's the only redeeming factor for this movie. Otherwise, other than that, I really didn't care for it. But I can't believe we're talking about this again. We just talked about Skinner Murray last week.
It's
yeah,
how
we're
they
going
got
to
us.
pause then.
They've trapped us now. We're trapped in the house with no doors or windows now. That's what's
Oh, we're
gonna
in Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
But another movie that I can think of that plays with color would be like Beetlejuice, because there's like a lot of greens in there. And again, that could be that I would say that's a comfort
It's common,
horror film for me.
horror.
Moving off of that, Tim Burton was kind of like, I would think that Tim Burton, especially because we're all around the same age, was kind of like an introduction into like horror or like kids horror,
Oh yeah, you know,
kind of.
I don't know.
nostalgic.
My first was Faces of Death.
Oh god.
I'm kidding. I'm totally
No
kidding.
wonder you're so fucked up.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I want to go home.
Podcast
You are
over.
home.
Bye, guys. Taking my ball and going home.
Why is everybody mean to me?
No, like, to be fair, though, I feel like our soft horror introduction was something going back to what Mikkel had said earlier, was that, like, Goosebumps, right? And just really, like, safe, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? That were, like, safe horror films that felt controlled, or horror series that felt controlled, but they were, like, a good kids introduction. And I feel like we kind of all had the same experience with that.
Childhood.
Yeah, and
Think about it.
Tim Burton had a lot to do with that, I think.
I
Yeah.
think about it too, in the fact that the 90s was like a fucking fever dream of media. Because like I look back at Power Rangers, like Rita
yeah.
Repulsa comes out of the earth, and what does she say? Make my monsters grow. She has monsters.
Right.
Like, we were so accustomed to monsters from childhood. It's coded into a lot. And while I wouldn't argue that Power Rangers is horror per se, it's still monster media.
I would argue that the Ivan Ooze movie is.
That's fair.
That is fair. Also, didn't Tim Burton also direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure? Which
Yes.
with Large Marge,
Mhm.
like you said earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Comes full circle. That's why we're all fucked up. Not just Mikkel.
Oh, great. Thanks. Thanks for the roundabout compliment? Question mark.
Oh, we love you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this podcast.
Also, can we talk about Pee-wee's Big Adventure for a second? Can we
Absolutely.
talk about how this man's bike was stolen? He thinks it's his neighbor, or Francis, and he shows up at his house.
Kicks his ass.
Yeah, kicks his ass, tries to drown him in his own pool. Like, that's pretty
metal.
savage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pee-wee don't play. I mean, he
Pee-wee
did.
was not fucking around with that
Where's
bike.
my fucking bike, bitch?
Mhm. There
It's
was
like the Big Lebowski.
There was also that scene, which I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I do want to discuss some more kids horror, because I have something just popped in my brain about was it the Elephants on Parade in Dumbo is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go
A
back
lot of
to that
people
though.
said that.
But there is a scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where the devil comes out, and it's Francis. Do you remember that? And it's like the milkman or the ice cream man or some shit. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that whole scene where his bike is being sent to hell and destroyed is terrifying. Do you guys remember that?
I do.
Okay.
I was actually thinking about that scene when you were talking about the Large Marge scene with her face. I'm like, there's also that scene where
where his bike goes to
he has
hell.
that dream about his bike going to hell. Yeah.
It's terrifying. It gives me like Pee-wee's Big Adventure always gives me the Burbs vibes, because I don't know. There's just something about it that are very similar in my brain somehow. But going back to scary kids stuff, because since we're talking about like nostalgia and feelings from our childhood, Elephants on Parade in Dumbo is a terrifying experience. Like, it is scary as hell.
On Parade by Rage Against the Machine.
Oh my god. Tell me it's
a lot
not
of people
terrifying
cite that.
though.
A lot of people cite that as like a childhood trauma, that was scary. But I also think of Heffalumps and Woozles from Oh, Winnie the Pooh.
They're very similar.
They are.
Mm.
It's if you look at a lot of early Disney, mainstream Disney, it's horror. Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Pinocchio.
Well, so all the Disneyland rides used to be scary too. They used to match the movies, and now they've made them all
That
PG.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride,
just
you
about to say.
literally go to hell.
You go to hell and they heat the room.
Mr. Toad's is still there.
I think they might have removed it because it was having timing issues.
How dare them?
I'm gonna check.
I will.
Even the Snow White ride at Disney was terrifying.
They changed that one too.
Mr. Toad's is still at Disneyland.
Yeah, they changed.
Oh yeah, no, it closed at Disney World forever ago.
They changed a bunch of them because they were too scary.
Yeah. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland as Disney calls it. Fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But also like a vibe, like the Cheshire Cat. fucking cool colors and aesthetic.
They all seem like they're someone you want to be friends with, but like the movie gives off this very like creepy energy.
You know, I don't know about that
I'd be
because I
friends
think
with the caterpillar with the
I was just about to
hookah.
say, I think of the caterpillar, and I just feel like he's gonna like go on a red pill rant from Reddit.
Oh no.
Like,
That's
man,
the vibe he gives off, though.
you know, man,
You're
like,
not wrong.
the government is putting drugs in our cheese
Oh my god.
to make us
He's a tinfoil hat guy.
basically.
Oh,
He's
for
a
sure.
woke wook.
100%.
Oh
Only
man.
reason we have to sleep is because the government has these guns that they shoot at us from satellites at approximately 6 p.m. that trigger neurons that make us go to sleep. Alice, why are you walking away?
And
I gotta tell you more. Alice,
let me
come
tell you
back.
about the bird drones, Alice. Oh my god. It's crazy. We live in a
God,
weird
she
time.
laughed. At least I have my crack pipe.
His hookah. His hookah.
He's on something.
So does anybody have any other comfort horror films? So just going back to the original topic. I feel like this whole episode is all just like emotional horror things, which I'm cool with.
I have one that I'm surprised Johnny didn't bring up. Serial Mom.
Oh.
Honestly,
Can I be-
I'm surprised you didn't bring it up.
Can I be honest?
What's up?
What?
I hadn't seen that movie until like within the last 2 years.
Really?
It came up on my list, my like Netflix list, and I watched it and I was like, oh.
I again grew up watching like that movie. I grew up watching a lot of horror movies, like just because my mom liked the old horror movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was interrupting you. You go.
I was done.
Oh. I was a don't tell mom the babysitter's dead kid. Like, do you remember that one?
I'm right on top of that, Rose. I love that movie. They remade that recently.
Ew, did they?
Yeah, I haven't seen the remake yet. I haven't really heard that much.
Can we talk about how all the remake? Is it really?
No, I'm just kidding.
That would be a fucking awesome musical.
I am thinking
it would be. I could see it as a musical.
Was it Anna and the Apocalypse?
Yeah.
Slaps.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what other movies were back then were like borderline, because they were murder. You know what was new that gave like those Serial Mom, don't tell mom babysitter's dead vibes? What? Santa Clarita Diet.
I have not watched that.
I will rewatch it with you. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it got canceled too soon. But basically, Drew Barrymore becomes a zombie and is Timothy Oliphant's wife. Timothy Oliphant has to basically feed his wife zombie brains, like brains and things, because she's like a zombie. And it has the same energy as those films. And I feel like you would really like that series. I know you don't like to watch a lot of series, but I think you should watch that one.
I've been meaning to. I just haven't. I don't really sit down and watch a lot of TV series. Like
it's just us against the world at this point.
Into this because like Yellow Jackets currently.
I mean, you would have been so sad if I had never introduced you to Yellow Jackets.
Probably. Backpedaling a little bit. Another show that was canceled too soon, and I'm just going to keep this brief because we're not going to talk about it. Was Firefly.
Oh,
that's what I'm gonna say.
I think that's everybody's.
Everybody wants that show back, but back
I feel like that's gonna get. I feel like that's gonna get remade before it gets renewed. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, they'll remake it.
Speaking of remakes, remakes are so bad. Like some of them are good. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but some of them are okay. The Craft remake, going back to like, it was. Did you see it?
Yes.
What in the Wicca bullshit did I watch?
The only thing I liked was the ending, where it's kind of revealed that Nancy was that girl's mom.
Right, but like, then it's not a remake.
Yeah, but that
then it's a reboot
it at the end.
Right.
It's like there's nothing there, but like
if you're gonna
really tie into the original film.
I feel like if you're gonna make a remake it word for word. Remake it exact. That's what people want. They want new actresses, new actors, blah, 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 blah. Have somebody else do it. Like, you know, when they do musicals, right? and they just put new actors and actresses into the same thing, and people are like, oh, I love it, blah, 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 blah. That's how a remake should be. Maybe adjust the story a little bit, but it doesn't need to. Everything is so over the top and in remakes these days that I'm like, I don't even want to watch it.
You know what's funny? The Black Christmas remake that came out, I think, in 2019, and the Craft remake were basically the same movie,
What?
except that the Black Christmas one didn't have like the witch aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically the same fucking movie.
I just want to see some new ideas in Hollywood. Hey, Hollywood.
I've been saying that for years.
Can we just manifest some great ideas, please?
Hey, I mean, look, I mean, we have had some good ones, and we had Talk to Me. That was a kind of an original idea.
Time out, though. It's not American.
Yeah, it's Australian.
Exactly.
Australian horror fucking slaps.
Hey,
It's not
Hollywood,
so
close
goddamn
down and
high.
let the other places take over.
I am very partial to New French Extremity.
Canadian
I would like
horror
to do
has
an
also
episode on
been
that
hitting the
soon,
spots,
hopefully.
hitting the itch in the brain in the right way. Canadian
My
horror and
favorite.
Australian.
My favorite film, Black Christmas,
Canadian horror.
Yeah. What has, okay.
Olivia Hussey, may she rest in peace.
Oh, I know. That's so
Me and Margaret
sad.
Sugar.
Oh my gosh, that happened so recently too, didn't it? Was that like
Yeah.
December?
I think it was around Christmas.
Oh, what? The irony, though, is kind of wild.
December 27th.
Damn! That is really close to Christmas.
It's right after Christmas.
Is it too soon to say it was a Black Christmas that year?
Mm.
Oh, I was going to say Billy finally got her.
Oh, shit. That's worse than what I was going to. No.
Is that? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Shame! Also, we don't take ourselves very seriously on this podcast. If anything
I love Olivia Hussey. I loved her in the Romeo and Juliet that she did.
If anything that we say on this podcast offends you or you take very seriously, we don't take ourselves very seriously, and I feel like everybody should know that by this
The
point.
only thing that we take seriously is our Lord and Savior, Olivia Hussey.
Yes.
Actually, that is kind of the only thing you take seriously, huh? I feel like that's a vibe.
That Narcat Bucky.
Yeah. So what, I guess since we're talking, we've kind of gone on this weird direction where we've just been talking about emotions and horror films, right?
Comfort films, yeah.
Yeah, we went from comfort to like what makes you feel things. And I think it's important, and I have a friend. She's like my best girlfriend in the whole world. And she just did not get horror at all. Like at all, right? Didn't understand it, didn't like it. Took her a really long time to go, okay, I'll try something. I had her watch. I finally found it. I figured it out. Her gateway drug to horror was High Tension. That's what got her. High Tension of all the fucking movies that I showed her. High Tension was the one that she's like, okay, now I gotta watch all the horror movies. Because I think that's the one where she like figured it out. And honestly,
that's a good movie.
It is. And it made her go, whoa, there's stuff like this. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I have a baseline for like what to show you. And then she started watching shitty, campy horror films with me because it spiraled. We spiraled. But
if she likes High Tension, I have recommendations.
But the fact
she may have already seen them, but
the fact is like I think it's because High Tension was emotional, and it's a good film. Like it is a really good film. I enjoy it.
I love, like I said earlier, I love New French Extremity. So like High Tension, Inside, Martyrs, Frontiers, Teton, all those movies.
I don't think I've seen half of what you just listed.
I would love to do an episode on New French Extremity. And this is also an excuse to get Mickle to watch some of these movies.
But yeah, that's what got her into it. That's what got her hooked. And I think that's what's interesting is because like that was a very emotional film. I mean, sure, she's being hunted by something, and there's gore and there's craziness going on. But
a lot of gore.
But at the end of the day, it is a very emotional film with the ending and the response that you get from it going, oh. And I think that a horror that can do that is super powerful. And I don't think we consider that enough. And going back to like people who were just like, oh, horror movies are stupid because ooh, jump scares. There's more to them.
There's so much more than jump scares.
And you
I
know,
hate jump scares.
give me a list of things of what stirred some heavy emotion in you with a horror film. Like which horror film? Yeah.
The Mist, the very first time I saw it.
Oh, I hate The Mist, but yes, I get it.
Listen,
I hate that movie so much.
I understand why you hate it because the ending is very, very frustrating.
Listen,
fucking makes me mad.
That movie is just hentai with spiders.
We could do a whole episode on this movie.
Spiky hentai.
I don't care. I'll fight you for 45 minutes.
We don't have to fight. I will respect you because I understand why people hate it. And I'm yelling right now. I apologize.
It's fine. I have a soundboard.
It is one of my favorite horror movie endings just because it is such a slap in the fucking face.
What was another one that was like that? I
want to say more, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
I feel like we watched something recently that was like, oh,
that fucked with me really hard, and you keep on apologizing for it, and you don't need to. Silent Night, the one where they think that the Earth is going to kill them because it's emitting some toxic gas.
Oh yeah, that one is a really intense one.
I
feel really bad that I showed that to you.
Feel bad.
Nope.
Like I
don't feel bad.
That movie's intense. In like a way that it's not supposed to. Like that is a really emotional film. For those who don't know, it's when we're talking about it's the new one where what's it called? It's called Silent Night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. It is a Christmas movie and is based in England, some sort of European country. Basically,
it's England. It's Keira Knightley.
Basically, everybody is going to die somehow with this gas that is coming in, and it's going to kill everyone on the planet.
Earth is pissed, and it's pulling a happening, but good.
Right. But basically,
literally,
these people all get together to party for one last night before they all take their
suicide pills.
Their unalive pills. I say unalive now because it's like easier to but you guys know it's our podcast. We can talk about this. The suicide pills. So basically, they take it, and they're going to take it at some point, and that's basically the synopsis of the film is that they are all going to die. They know they're going to die, and there is a way out in the form of a pill that was given to them by the government.
The government wants them to die with dignity, but one of the big questions is the toxic gas actually going to kill them?
Right.
And that's the whole moral dilemma of the film. Do they, quote unquote, die with dignity or die suffering, or is it possible that they can live through it? It begs a lot of questions about polite society and what breaks down like social mores and how they're arbitrary at the end of the day. Because quite literally, these people are like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna have a literal end of the world party, and they're still trying to like. They tell the kids, okay, you can say certain curse words, but not these ones.
Right.
But it's like also, what does it matter at this point if everybody is going to die?
It's a really emotional film, and I don't think it got enough attention.
I highly suggest it. Like I said, I had a nightmare where I had a dream of a similar scenario. And I actually woke up crying, which I do not cry a lot. Not that there's anything wrong with crying. I'm just, maybe it's the emotional stunting. Maybe it's Maybelline, but I don't cry a lot. But that being said, I woke up and just sat there for probably a good hour crying. It hit me that hard.
It's a lot.
You don't need to apologize for it. It's good to feel emotions. Just
It's
not at like 3 a.m. when I'm trying
cathartic.
to fall asleep.
Well, yeah, I love moments like that though. It's I mean the circumstances aren't great, but it's like a cathartic moment.
And I think that's ultimately too, how do we define comfort? On the one hand, we started this by talking about discomfort. And I'd argue that some of that is a form of comfort too, because as Johnny just said, it's cathartic. The idea that we sit with our discomfort. There are films that I sit after and say, I don't feel well. I
Mm.
feel uncomfortable. And I find that intellectually stimulating because I have to sit there and think about it. I'll come back to my favorite again. In terms of comfort films, I saw the TV Glow. The first time it ended, I was just like, I need to watch it
Oh,
again. Almost
yeah.
immediately after seeing it, I was just like, I feel like I got a lot out of it, but I feel like there's so much more I can gain from revisiting it. And that sense of being ill at ease, I think, is always a good sign of a film that really knows how to push your buttons in the right way to make you uncomfortable and to really question what you think or how you feel about a subject.
I have a couple of
Um,
films like
Right.
that
Did
I
you
can
didn't you
rattle off.
yeah,
The Circle. Did you ever see Circle?
I hated it.
but I wasn't a fan
I
either.
hated
Really?
it so
I,
much.
I like that movie because it gave me that dilemma at the end.
It was swipe left the movie.
oh my god.
Oh, okay. I
Dex,
have a better one. I have a better one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Platform.
I
Well, yeah,
enjoyed
we watched
watching
that
it.
with you.
And you watched
That was good.
I
We watched them both the same day.
that is one of those movies that I cannot stop thinking about.
You know what that
It was a good movie.
You know one that sits weird with me? The
Mm.
coffee table.
Oh my god, I just
That
saw that come up again.
that
I'm thinking about watching it again.
It's such an
that
uncomfortable film.
that was very uncomfortable. But again, and like it was in a good way for me. It made me feel uncomfortable. I like feeling uncomfortable
When she
watching movies.
okay, I don't want to
like that.
spoiler what this one because I feel like nobody's seen it. We're not gonna spoil
Understandable. We're not
this
gonna
one.
spoil this one.
But there are some moments in that movie that kept me hanging, like when she looks under the couch. That's all I'm gonna say. And she sees what's actually happening.
Yeah.
That it takes so long, it takes a long time to get to that point.
Mhm.
But that movie really kind of fucked me up. I can't stop thinking about that movie. I want to watch it
Actually,
again.
one
Also,
that we
the
need.
moment you realize that it happens, and you're just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
One
I don't
that
even know what the synopsis for that film is.
the synopsis is literally what happens.
Is it
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil
let you
anything.
know
Okay,
what
no
happens.
spoils. No spoils. If you are interested in something emotional, but I have to trigger warning you, there's a baby involved, go watch Coffee Table. It is, and then tell us about it. Tell us how you feel about it because like
Yes,
wasn't
let's talk about it.
I really do want to talk about it, but like I think people need to see it. Like it's one of those
Yeah.
that finally just came up for free on like my Amazon Prime streaming or something like that. And I don't remember where we watched it. I think it was like Tubi or something. But I think that everyone who wants to have some sort of emotional response towards like children should watch it. You know what I mean?
Another one that really resonated with me, Spontaneous.
Yeah, I was going to
I
ask you about that.
And I
fucking broke. So basically the premise, it is a comedy horror. One group of teenagers, like one classroom in a high school, the students start to spontaneously explode.
What?
And there's
2020.
I don't want to spoil anything, but like one by one, they start exploding. And the question is, what is causing it? How do they stop it? What are the solutions? What are the town's responses? And it's incredibly funny in some points, but it is a gut punch in others.
Wow.
I don't think I have cried that much to a film. I was also having a really rough go of it at the time, but my God, it's one of those films that takes you back and forth between like laughing
Oh, so it really
and
fucks with
fucking
you.
sobbing. The juxtapositions are really good. But it was very cathartic to watch that one, to
Wow.
consider the
I'm gonna have to watch this.
how tragedy and comedy unfold side by side.
These kids look so chill too. I just
Oh,
looked it up. I was like, they all look.
There are some really funny moments in the movie, but there's also like some really nice.
There's one
serious.
that I will spoil that's really funny. So one of the kids spontaneously explodes, and a cop is explaining it to the parents and goes up to their car and peels off the sticker from their little sticker family. And one of the other teenagers is like, huh, I always wondered what they did if somebody died.
Oh my god.
It's so
And that's very early on in the film too.
That's
So it's like,
amazing.
oh, okay. You immediately get the vibe that the movie's giving off, but then there's like gut punches here and there
I
that'll
think
make you feel very like, well, this makes me feel sad.
it does a very good job of showing how absurd the situation is, but how dire it would be if it were real.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
I think we should watch it together soon.
Yeah. This looks like something I'm going to watch. That being said, I feel like we've sort of discussed this sort of became like horror emotion in horror, and I'm kind of down for that.
Yeah. We started I mean, that's still on track for
we got a little
comfort
crazy.
horror.
Well,
But
it's comfort and catharsis.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other films they'd like to add to the comfort list before we have to start wrapping up?
I think I'm good.
I can't think of anything else at the moment. I'm sure
I'll-
there's something, but I can't think of anything right now.
I'll add an exhortation. You know, like I've been saying exhortations at the ends of these episodes.
Oh yeah.
Things that we can walk away with.
We can't have the quotes that you used earlier though. They have to be something new.
That's fine. I'm just a horror fan, and life is a nightmare.
Oh my god, I hate it here.
And with that, we bid you all adieu.
Thank you for joining us for Features of the Night. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google, wherever your favorite podcasts are syndicated. That is where we are now. Please watch us. Please share us. And if you like our podcast, please give us a rating because we're still new and fresh and trying to make it in this
tell
world.
us what you think.
Also, we want to hear your comfort horror films.
We also want to hear, if there's something you want us to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, we are always open for ideas.
Yeah, I've already had people watching the show. They're like, "Hey, I cannot wait for the trauma episode." I'm just like, "What?"
Oh yeah, we're doing a trauma episode.
Yeah, so it'll be.
You can't take her idea, fuckers. Just kidding. We love you.
All right, you
Bye.
guys have a great rest of your listening experience on wherever the hell you're listening to us on. Thank you all for joining us, and please don't forget to subscribe and like and share, and we appreciate you.
Go make your grandmother watch a horror movie that makes her question your sanity and probably estranges you from the family. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.